I'd like to go back to Professor Andrew Bacevich and the discussion of the hearing yesterday. The pork-barrel nature of some of the questions that the senators raised to General Mattis, including the liberal Senator Elizabeth Warren, over what his attitude would be to specific Defense Department projects in their home states.
I'll answer the question, but first, could I just make a brief comment on Iran?
Oh, sure.
And although Trita Parsi knows so much more about this issue than I do, I'd offer a slightly more optimistic scenario. I mean, let's remember that the expectation was that the new administration was going to dump the Iran nuclear deal. And the fact that we have the presumed defense secretary on the record saying that he supports maintaining the detail is actually good news. I mean, it's a half a loaf, but a half a loaf is better than none. I do expect that Mattis and the administration more broadly will be skeptical about whether the nuclear deal can lead to a broader engagement between Iran and the United States. But, and here's my little bit of optimism, to the extent that the focus of the Trump administration is going to be on creating all those millions of jobs that he has vowed to deliver in short order, the logic of engagement with Iran economically is going to present itself. And the expectation that a deepening engagement with Iran can have economic advantages redounding to the United States could ultimately overturn the logic, and I'm not denying the logic that Trita was describing of a renewed effort to impose American hegemony. So I'll just leave that as it is. To your question, Juan, I was chagrined at the extent to which quite a number of the members of the Senate Armed Services Committee provided their few minutes to pose questions, basically posed questions that said to General Mattis, hey, can you promise me that if you become Secretary of Defense, that you are going to ensure that my state's investment in the military-industrial complex is going to be protected. We heard that from Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut, who went out of his way to get Mattis on the record of saying that he supported the building of more submarines, which just happened to be produced in Connecticut. And Senator Warren from my state went through a long list of assets that are available here in Massachusetts between labs and research facilities, wanted to make sure that Mattis was on the record of saying that he appreciated that, therefore the expectation that our own contribution to the military-industrial complex is going to be preserved.
Andrew Bacevich, can you talk about the issue of the waiver? The Senate just voted on this waiver, the significance of why we do have a rule in place in the United States that the defense secretary has to serve in civilian life for 7 years and not be active duty, active military. Retired Mattis has been there, he left in 2013, so he needed this waiver?
You know, if somehow we had to have a general be Secretary of Defense, I'd probably say Mattis may be better than most of the alternatives. He certainly is a more of a reasonable figure, let's say, than Lieutenant General Flynn, who's about to become the National Security Advisor. But that said, as a matter of principle, I think it's a bad idea to have a former general running the Pentagon. Earlier on, Aaron talked about, made mention of the fact that Mattis's entire professional career, until his retirement, has been in the military. And I have to say that we need to appreciate the extent to which that kind of a professional background has a shaping, and indeed, I would say, a narrowing effect on a person's outlook. If we decided to have somebody who is a cardinal archbishop in the Catholic Church become Secretary of Defense, well, we would have some expectation that all those years spent in that very specific, all-encompassing environment would have a profound effect on the outlook of that individual. I think that's true with military people, and my problem is that given where we are, our position in the world, given the absence of success of our military activism, I don't think we need somebody who has that mindset. I think we need somebody as a defense secretary who can bring to the office greater creativity than General Mattis manifested yesterday when he was responding to the questions of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He's a very conventional Marine. That's not what we need right now.
Aaron Glantz, I'd like to ask you about both you and Andrew Bacevich have mentioned General Mattis's long career, basically more than 40 years in the military. But Politico reported that his financial disclosure statement says that he's worth more than $10 million. Now, apparently, all of this wealth was garnered just in the few years after he retired, when he worked for, among other companies, the defense giant General Dynamics. Your response to this issue of his sudden wealth after he left the military?
Well, it's not uncommon to have a senior military officer go into consulting after retirement, which is exactly what General Mattis did. It is interesting that this is among the many other issues that wasn't really discussed during the hearing that could have been discussed instead of the pork barrel projects that you were talking about. He could have been asked about these apparent conflicts of interest that might have developed as a result of his consulting work and how he might deal with them. On the issue of civilian control of the military, another point to consider is that not only are we talking about General Mattis needing a waiver to this law that goes back to 1947, but also in addition to General Flynn, the incoming National Security Advisor, we also have General Kelly, who is going to be most likely the Secretary of Homeland Security. And then, of course, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff will still be in the room, General Dunford. So there's going to be 4 generals, if all are confirmed, in the room, talking with Trump, and to the point of narrowing. All of these different generals have their own perspective, but it does mean that there are perspectives that you might normally have in the room that will be missing because of the overwhelming presence of retired and current military in the administration at a high level.
Aaron Glantz, do you think that General Mattis should be brought up on war crimes charges?
I think it's something that we need to seriously explore here. As I said in my article, the case that I document regarding General Mattis's command in Fallujah resembles in many ways the case that the United States of America brought against General Yamashita of Japan following World War II. He was not accused of directly perpetrating war crimes during World War II, but he had command authority over Japanese troops that did commit very serious war crimes in Southeast Asia. And they involved very similar activities to the ones that the U.S. Marines under General Mattis's command committed in Fallujah. And this is the doctrine of command responsibility. The U.S. Supreme Court ultimately upheld the execution of General Yamashita. Other military commanders in Yugoslavia and Rwanda have been convicted under similar doctrines. And I think that this is something that really should be discussed thoroughly before his confirmation is approved. At this point, it doesn't look likely.
Well, I want to thank you very much all for being with us. We want to thank Aaron Glantz, senior reporter at Reveal with the Center for Investigative Journalism. We want to thank Andrew Bacevich, professor emeritus at Boston University, retired colonel and Vietnam vet, and Trita Parsi, founder and president of the National Iranian American Council. When we come back, we return to an earlier confirmation hearing this week. You will hear what many Republican senators did not stay to hear. Their colleagues in the House and the Senate testifying in this case surrounds Jeff Sessions. Stay with us.